Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is Tuesday, TowerGate 334, February the 6th, 2018. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, I don't know how many of you saw Charles Grassley's little press conference today, but it was very, very interesting. If you didn't see it, let me tell you all about it. Charles Grassley, who is of course the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, or the Senate Judiciary Committee, who's really been focusing hard on the dossier and things and such, did a little conference today, press conference, and he made the statement, and he was referring to, if you remember, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, he sent a letter to Christopher Wray and Rosenstein imploring them to begin a criminal investigation of Christopher Steele. And the reason being that they believe that he perjured himself in his testimony. Now, as you know, here on TowerGate for the past 5, 6, 7 months, however long it's been, I've been referring constantly to the court filings that have been made public in PDF form from the civil suit that's been going on in the UK in the case of Mr. Gohmert versus Christopher Steele. And I've been wondering why more people haven't been reading these court briefs. Well, it appears that it was from reading these court briefs, the same ones I've been reading, that Grassley, and then looking at his Steele's other statements, have found problems with his statements, and that's why they recommended to Christopher Wray and Rod Rosenstein that they begin a criminal investigation of Christopher Steele. So Grassley today has reiterated that he has substantial evidence that Christopher Steele lied to the FBI about a key aspect of the infamous dossier. That's one of the important things he said. But he said something even more important. Now, we know that Devin Nunes has said, okay, now we've looked at the FISA court and what was done there. Now we're looking into the State Department, and we found some things there that we're going to be talking about as well. Well, that's pretty much, it appears, where Grassley has already done his work on looking at the State Department side, and he dropped a couple of bombshells today of what they know happened in the Senate Judiciary Committee, Grassley's committee, what they have learned about the relationship between the dossier, Christopher Steele, the State Department, and the Rotten Reverend, Crooked Hillary. Grassley is saying that Hillary operatives were feeding Christopher Steele. Now, we learned about a week ago about Cody Shearer, one of the Clintons' hatchet men, who goes all the way back to the early 90s with the Clintons. And we found out about a week and a half ago that Cody Shearer wrote his own memo, which he gave to Christopher Steele, which Christopher Steele gave to the FBI on October the 14th of 2016. But we're now learning that there was another contact made between the State Department and Christopher Steele. And according to Charles Grassley, in a memo dated October 19th, 2016, Steele stated that he received information from a State Department official and that this person had been in contact with Bill and Hillary. Now, Grassley knows the name of this individual, and I think I know the name of this individual. So essentially this is telling us again that Clinton used a third party to pass along to Steele information. We know that Cody Shearer, that is right inside the Rotten Reverend Clinton's universe. That is within the Clinton cabal. Cody Shearer is within the inside of the Clinton cabal. And he gives Steele a dossier which Steele gives to the FBI on October 14th. But we now learn that a State Department official also passed along information to Steele, and this person had been in contact with Bill and Hillary. Now, the name is likely going to be redacted when Grassley's memo is released. But I think we know the name of that individual, and I believe his name is Jonathan Weiner. He's a State Department official. He's a very close contact of Bill and Hillary. And he was the man who briefed John Kerry on the dossier personally once and wrote him a 2-page summary on another occasion. It appears, I would say, very, very likely that Jonathan Weiner was the State Department contact. And you see, the Hillary and Bill Clinton way of doing things is they always use other people to do their dirty work. They don't get their hands dirty. They use people to do their dirty work. Just as they used Christopher Steele and Fusion GPS and Perkins Coie, they also used Cody Shearer, and it looks like they may have used Jonathan Weiner. And why is this so important? Because I'm telling you that the ultimate bomb that's going to be dropped, and I don't know when this is going to come out or how it's going to come out, but when we finally learn and when we finally have solid evidence that the rotten Reverend Clinton was directly involved in the process of moving the information in the dossier to the Justice Department and the FBI, when we get a solid contact between Clinton and the Justice Department and the FBI, when we can tie that together, that is when the walls collapse on this whole thing. That's the only thing that's keeping it up right now, besides Christopher Steele coming out and just flat out, copping a deal and just spilling his guts and telling us everything. But short of that, when we finally get to the point where we can show that this was a Clinton operation, as I've been saying since day one on TowerGate, this was a Clinton operation, period. Everything else is smoke and mirrors. Fusion GPS, Perkins Coie, Mr. Shearer, you name all the characters, they're all just people who were plugged in, just characters, smoke and mirrors, distractions and things and such. This is just as if the rotten Reverend Clinton and Slick Willie sat down at their kitchen table with Podesta and maybe a couple other insiders and wrote this whole thing themselves, which is essentially what they did, and all they did was use everyone else to be the cover for them. Straw men, distractions, diversions, smoke and mirrors, credibility, all these things, because the rotten Reverend Clinton knew that they couldn't write this Russian dossier and they'll go hand it to the FBI, or hand it to the State Department, or hand it to the DOJ, or give it to Obama, or Comey, or Lynch, or anyone like that. They had to use a whole series of people in between them and their dossier and the Justice Department, the FBI, and things and such. These are all diversions, smoke and mirrors. This essentially was a Clinton operation, and when we tie the rotten Reverend Clinton and Slick Willie directly to the Justice Department and the FBI and the operation, the counterintelligence operation that they were running on Trump, when that is done, that's when this whole thing blows up big time. And it looks like Grassley is nibbling very, very close around the edges of breaking into that firewall. And Nunes is working on that same firewall as well. And we can assume that Mr. Goodlatte is also working on that, because remember, they're all working together. Nunes, Grassley, and Goodlatte are all working together. So this is a bombshell. This is a bombshell. And, another thing, Grassley also said, hey, look, we're going to try to get this out, but we have to go through this declassification process just like they did in the House. Could take a few weeks. But he said, and I think he was talking directly to Christopher Wray, he said, the FBI can declassify this right now, and we can release this information to you tomorrow, and they should. But if they don't, Grassley will do what Nunes did. He'll go through the procedure, and they will get this memo out. And this is going to go even deeper. Nunes' first memo focused mainly on the FISA court, how they got the FISA warrant, and that type of thing. This is looking really at the inner workings of the how the dossier moved from its various points, from Clinton, Perkins Coie, Fusion GPS, Christopher Steele, and then it's going to show that there were other things going on, that this was not a direct loop like this, but that there were other things coming in from different directions. Christopher Steele not just getting the dossier and passing it to the FBI. No. Christopher Steele was receiving information, and he's getting that information in the form of, we know now, a second dossier from Cody Shearer, a Clinton hatchet man and Clinton operative, an insider in the Clinton universe. And now we have a State Department spokesman who delivered information directly to Steele, who had been in contact with Bill and Hillary Clinton. So as we can see, it's the Clintons behind this whole thing. And when we get to the bottom of it, that's what we're going to find. Take it to the bank. That is what we're going to find. One of James Comey's FBI assistants, named Josh Campbell, he's an anti-Trumper. You probably heard about him. He's the one who went on MSNBC or CNN and badmouthed Trump or whatever. Well, he has resigned because he said he could no longer stand being a part of the FBI with Trump as president. So he resigned, and within 48 hours, he was signed on by CNN to be a contributor to CNN. How do you like them apples? The House Select Committee has voted unanimously to release the Democrats' FISA memo, which of course now goes to Trump, and of course the same process. He has a week to either release it or block it. I hope he blocks it, but he won't. He'll release it. But this is very, very funny. This story is very, very funny because we know essentially what the Democrats' FISA document is going to say. It's basically going to say, well, Carter Page really was probably a spy, probably is a spy. They had justification to surveil him and get these FISA warrants because they've been looking at him since 2013 because he has all these Russian contacts and blah 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 blah. So this is the drive behind the Democrats' FISA memo. Is going to try to justify everything that was done in order to spy on Carter Page, because apparently they've been watching him for all these years and this and that and the other thing. Well, there are some white hats at the FBI who can do leaks as well. So as we're waiting for this Democratic FISA memo to be released sometime in the next week, I would say, some white hat probably in the FBI released the following leak. You're going to like this one. It turns out that Carter Page was working with the FBI as an informant from 2014 until March the 2016, helping them to build a case against a Russian mobster named Eugeny Berkarov. And this past spring, they finally closed the case, and he's looking at a whole list of crimes. So the Democratic memo is going to try to say that Carter Page really is probably a Russian spy, and that's why they had to get the FISA warrants on him, and so it's all justified. And now we learn from this leak that in fact Carter Page was working for the FBI, working with the FBI as an informant to help bring down a Russian mobster, and he worked on this case for them from 2014 until March 2016. So what are they going to say? That at the same time that he's working with the FBI to take down a Russian mobster as an informant, which is quite risky business, by the way, that at the same time he's also legitimately a potential turncoat, a Benedict Arnold, working for the Russians, working as a Russian spy? No. He was working as an American informant for the FBI to bring down a Russian mobster. So it kind of takes all the teeth out of the Democrats' FISA memo before it's even released. Well done. Very well done. You see, leaks can come from both ends. Very well done. Hey, the rotten Reverend Clinton was speaking to a group of women, and she was telling them that climate change is sexist. Oh, and the reason is because once climate change has caused all the vegetation to disappear and America looks like a desert, that it will be women that will have to go out and try to forage through the deserts and find some food to eat. It is unbelievable. And she was also promoting another speech that she's going to be giving. Take a wild guess what speech the Rotten Reverend Clinton is going to be giving and speaking on here in the next week or two. You're going to like this one. The Rotten Reverend Clinton is going to be doing a speech on sexual harassment. The Rotten Reverend is going to go out and do a speech to a bunch of women on sexual harassment. I wonder if she'll bring Slick Willie along with her. Maybe he can give them some tips on exactly how you go about sexually harassing a woman, or even force raping them. He could probably be very instructive in that as well. He's got a lot of experience, doesn't he? Unbelievable. The chutzpah, or whatever word that is, the arrogance of the Clintons, that they can go out and do this stuff, is just absolutely amazing. I mean, these people have no soul whatsoever. No soul whatsoever. Hey, Senator Magoo, yeah, he hasn't died yet. He's still alive. Senator Magoo is saying that we should do DACA amnesty and study the wall. We'll take a look at that proposition for the wall and study that and see if the wall actually works and what the cost might be. But in the meantime, let's just go ahead and legalize all the illegal aliens. That's what Senator Magoo thinks we should do. Louis Gohmert raising a very, very, very interesting question, which quite honestly had never dawned on me, but he's now suggesting, he's saying that was bringing Nellie Orr into Fusion GPS and paying her, and remember, she was essentially being paid by the Rotten Reverend Clinton, was that a way of Bruce and Nellie being paid to bring the Clinton dossier information into the FBI? Was this a backdoor way for the Rotten Reverend Clinton to get this dossier information into the DOJ NSD division, into Bruce Orr's hands, by employing his wife at Fusion GPS? Essentially paying her off, because apparently Nellie was paid quite well, very well. We don't know the exact dollar amount, but it appears it was a fairly hefty number, like more than $100,000 or something. That she was paid a lot of money to do that little work there at Fusion GPS for a few months. And so Gohmert's looking at the amount of money she made and how we learned that from the Devin Nunes FISA memo that the information flow was going from Nellie Orr to her husband Bruce and then to the FBI. So now Gohmert is suggesting, well, wait a minute, Hillary was the one paying for Nellie Orr essentially via Fusion GPS or Perkins Coie. So is it possible that the Rotten Reverend Clinton, Crooked Hillary, was got Nellie Orr employed at Fusion GPS so that they could essentially, in a way, bribe her or pay her to funnel this information to her husband? Would the Rotten Reverend Clinton go that low? Yes. And that's the angle that Gohmert is taking on it. And that's a very interesting angle. And we may find out that that's also true. There are just so many things to be unearthed. Trump gave a speech today here in Cincinnati, actually probably 15-20 minutes from where I work. He was in I was in the Liberty Township area. He was over in Blue Ash, which is 15-minute drive, giving a speech there today. And I understand it was a pretty raucous speech. And in that speech, he said that Nancy Pelosi is the Republicans' secret weapon. Yes, she is. Under her leadership, that party is being destroyed. And that's why I said we don't want Pelosi to go away. No. We want Pelosi right where she is. I hope she stays there for now until hell. I hope after she dies, they prop her up and inject her with something. Just sit her up there in a chair or something. pump a bunch of stuff into her, whatever it takes. Keep her there. We don't want Pelosi going away ever. She's the best thing that ever happened to the Republican Party, and she's the best thing for our team right now. She really is. Quite the weapon. Well done, Trump. We also have the Rotten Reverend Clinton on a tweet saying that Trump is using the FISA memo as a scapegoat. Using the FISA memo as a scapegoat. Well, even if he was, Reverend, that's not illegal. But using the FISA warrant, using the dossier to get a FISA warrant is a crime. And my guess is, Reverend, that you were behind pushing this dossier through the DOJ and the FBI, and you probably had your people on the inside making it all happen, because you, Reverend, were probably running that operation. And the more we learn, the more significance that little meeting on the tarmac has. Now what do you think Clinton and Lynch were talking about on the tarmac? According to Roger Stone, Michael Flynn is set to file for dismissal of all charges. That's right. You know why? Let me tell you. As you know, Mueller has postponed the sentencing for Michael Flynn. Of course, they cut a deal, so he's probably not going to get anything other than maybe some fines, which he probably can't pay because they bankrupted him. But here's the problem they have. It was Andrew McCabe who took Flynn's sworn testimony. So guess who has to go to court as the witness to the sworn testimony against Flynn? Andrew McCabe. Do they really want Andrew McCabe being the guy sitting there as the sworn official, the sworn law official, law enforcement official who took Flynn's statement? That wouldn't look very good, would it? That's why they postponed the hearing, because they don't want McCabe anywhere near the courtroom. But he's the sworn government official who took the statement. He's the sworn witness for the government. He's got to be there. That's a little tricky, isn't it? So now Flynn, based on the FISA memo and other things that he's got, and other things that are coming out, is going to do this, is probably going to move to get all these charges dismissed. And, of course, Manafort is already suing Mueller. And I expect that there'll be more lawsuits against Mueller and many more civil lawsuits to come for all these people, in addition to criminal charges. Slovakia is going to build a border wall, and they're accepting no Muslims. As I've been telling you for a very long time, the collapse of the EU is going to start in the Eastern Bloc. That's where you see all the pushback. And we've seen just in the last 6-8 months how many of these countries in the Eastern Bloc, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and other countries in that Czech Eastern Bloc are all basically challenging the EU technocrats like never before. They're just flat refusing to comply with the EU policies anymore. They're just refusing to comply. They're building walls. They're kicking out the immigrants, the ones who allowed any in. They're getting rid of them, and they're flat out refusing to comply with the UN mandate that they allow these migrants and Muslims into their country. No, they're building walls. They're giving the finger to the EU. And it's just a matter of time. This is all building, and it's just a matter of time before the collapse of the EU begins for real, and it will begin in the Eastern Bloc. Will the transcripts of the interviews with the witnesses be released? There are a lot of members pushing for that, and apparently they are working on that. And that's exactly what they need to do. They need to declassify every bit of this. Nothing about this dossier, going to the FISA court, The whole thing, nothing about this has anything to do with national security. It was a political opposition research document that was used by the DOJ and the FBI on behalf of the rotten Reverend Clinton, and probably with her direction and orchestration to put together this this plot, which was supposed to be an October surprise to destroy Trump's attempt at getting elected. And then once he got elected, it was taken over by the Justice Department and the FBI as an insurance policy to take him out. It has nothing to do with national security. It has everything to do with protecting the criminals from being held accountable for their crimes. Trump is now being advised again not to testify under oath to Mueller, or not at all. Apparently, he's got 4 attorneys, and 3 of them, including Jay Sekulow, are basically advising the president, don't do it. Some people say, and I have read where Mueller can force it, but Trump could simply go to court. He could play the same game. He could lawyer up. He's got plenty of money. He could lawyer up, but Jay Sekulow says that if he goes to court over these issues, he will win. I agree. I believe that if Trump took this all the way to the courts, he would win, however high up it has to go, even to the Supreme Court. That's exactly what I said 2 weeks ago. Don't testify to Mueller. If he throws some law in your face saying you have to, go to court. Go to court. You'll win, Mr. President. You have the right to fire the FBI director or anyone else in the executive branch. The reasons why don't matter. In order to have obstruction charge, there has to be an underlying crime. Mueller cannot produce an underlying crime. That's why you'll win, Mr. President. Go to court. Don't talk to Mueller. Listen to Jay Sekulow and me and all of my subscribers. None of my subscribers, Mr. President, that I looked at in the comments section think that you should testify. None of them. We all think that you should fight it to the hilt and go all the way to the Supreme Court if you have to, where you'll win. Now we have the Trump White House officially pushing for a special counsel to investigate the corruption at the DOJ and the FBI. Not just a tweet, but an official statement. This is targeted at Jeff Sessions, the eager beaver, the overachiever. That's exactly who this is targeted towards. And it should be. God knows what that man is thinking. He's very, very lucky I'm not president, because I would have fired him well, I never would have appointed him. But, at this point, I would have fired him and Rosenstein. I would just fire them both. That's just what I think Trump should do. Fire them both. Fire Rosenstein, fire Mueller, fire Sessions, the whole group. And then immediately have your new Attorney General appoint a new Attorney General. If the Senate will not confirm one, that's okay. Then you can use the next man up. Next man up, then you go say, okay, well, it looks like you're the acting Attorney General. I want a special prosecutor to look into the corruption at the DOJ and the FBI. And also to look into that Mueller investigation to see if that was part of the insurance policy. I mean, if they want to play that game, let's play that game. You're sitting at 50% approval ratings, Mr. President. We got your back. They want to play hardball. Let's take these people down. Let's quit playing patty cake. You see how they're going to play. You're trying to play the straight and narrow game with them. They aren't going to play that way. They're going to play down and dirty. They're going to lie and cheat and do anything else they have to do. It's not fair. You got to fight fire with fire. I would lawyer up. I would challenge Mueller. I wouldn't do any interview with him whatsoever. I would fire Sessions. I would fire Rosenstein. I'd fire Christopher Wray. I'd clean out the whole damn executive branch and dare anyone to say anything about it. And any Republicans who say, yeah, well, we won't confirm, if you fire Sessions or Rosenstein, we won't confirm your new nominee. Oh, yeah? Is that right, Lindsey Graham? Candy Pants Graham? Is that what you think? Is that right, Senator Magoo? That what you would do? Go ahead. because the next man up would take the position while we're waiting. And in the meantime, Mr. Candy Pants Graham and Senator Magoo, your asses will be grass, because the voters won't be very happy with you. You'll be on the wrong team. I would call their bluff, and I would do it. It's exactly what I would do. So, we now know that we are getting much closer, much closer to tying the Clintons directly to the operation. Directly to the operation, the insurance policy, and the coup. When you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury, based on the evidence or witness testimony, or even circumstantial evidence if it's overwhelming, that the Rotten Reverend Clinton or her husband or both were directly involved with the FBI, the DOJ, or the Obama administration to use this dossier to launch this investigation, to get these FISA warrants and all the rest, that's when big heads will roll. There will definitely be a special prosecutor, and that will be the beginning. Things will happen very quickly then. It won't be a year or two or whatever. It will be a matter of days. In days, it'll all come crashing down, and everyone will be exposed. That is the link that they're digging to find. Grassley's working on it. Nunes is working on it. There are other people working on it, and we're getting closer and closer. We have Mr. Scheer personally handing Christopher Steele a dossier. On October 14th, 2016, he gives it to the FBI. He is directly in the Clinton orbit. That's one source going directly from Clinton to Steele to the FBI, which means now we're only one person removed. Then we have a second instance of it, which we learned from Mr. Grassley today. And that person is likely Jonathan Weiner, a State Department official who contacted Steele and gave him information after being in contact with Bill and Hillary. A second instance of contact between the dossier, Steele, and the FBI, where the Clintons are involved. Still one person in between them. Eventually, we will find that direct contact. It may have been Clinton and Lynch on that tarmac meeting. But I'm sure as we move forward, it's just a matter of time before we find the actual direct link. Some conversation, some email, or even through a third party could be. But the smoking gun evidence that the Rotten Reverend Clinton and her husband, Slick Willie, were the creators of the Russia-Trump story, the dossier, and that they were the ones directing and controlling the entire operation, using the resources of the FBI and the DOJ with their full cooperation and knowledge of who was running the operation. The Clintons. That's what we're going to learn when we get to the bottom of this. And there will be hell to pay. I can assure you that. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be all over it, and I'll be back tomorrow with whatever breaks next. Thank you so much for tuning in. Good night. Bye.